Welcome to Nice Ashes. I'm Mike.
And I'm Nate. And it just now occurs to me that I made Mike last time say what cigar we're smoking. So I'm going to do it again. Mike, what are we smoking? Because it's the brand he loves to pronounce.
Apparently it's Partagas, but it should be Partagas.
Not Partagas?
Yeah, Partagas, whatever.
A
Partagas Cifuente Maduro. And this is probably a Toro length. It is definitely not a Robusto.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Sometimes they say on the little cellophane, but sometimes they don't. Yeah, it's a Toro. It says Toro.
Perfect. It is a Toro. So my level eye worked today.
Yes.
And,
rule of thumb or whatever, right?
Yep.
Guesstimation.
We're recording this one in person yet again, and
yes,
we're both drinking Guinness. Warm this time. Nate had cold ones last time.
Yeah. The horror, the abuse I go through for this show.
That's right. I drink my Guinness at basement floor temperature.
As it's intended to be drank.
Right.
Yeah, there's a big thing. I spent a month in London, and a lot of people were like, oh, they drink their beer warm there. But it's not really warm. It's just, it's a few degrees or 10 degrees or something like that warmer, but it depends on the style of beer. Warmer than we keep it in America. Americans want everything cold, 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 I guess. But that's not how you get the good flavors out of some of this beer, some of the beer styles. From what I've heard, I'm not a beer connoisseur or snob or anything like that.
My beer fridge is so cold that it'll freeze pops. I keep it as cold as humanly possible because American-style beers are typically designed to be drank almost on the verge of freezing.
And there's nothing better on a hot March day than opening a can of soda or pop or Coke and having it kind of ice into a slushy while you're drinking it.
That is true. And then that's my annual case of Pabst I keep very, very cold.
Yes. This cigar is very firm in the hand, much firmer than the Rocky Patel.
I still get a good squish, not terribly squishy, but it's not rock hard or anything like that. It's not like gas station cigar.
Speak for yourself, man. Oh yeah, the cigar. No, it's but it is a little firmer than the Rocky Patel that we smoked in the first episode. So
it is, and these were both kept in the same humidor as the Rocky Patel.
Yep.
So.
And this one smells great. So far, it tastes really good.
It is very, I wouldn't call it spicy. Very flavorful, though.
It's flavorful in a kind of a mature way.
It's almost like fermented, I would say. It's got that like body profile that you want out of a very dark cigar.
Yes. I mean, fermented to me kind of makes me think of, vinegar, some kind of like a vinegary, but that's not at all what we're getting. I mean, it's like a barrel aged almost taste.
Yes.
Off of. So just to be clear, because I don't know, word associations are kind of weird because I had a boss once that said, well, give it the old college try. And to me, college try means don't really try at all and just wing it. But that's not the official definition of the phrase college try. And my current, one of my current supervisors believes that a showstopper is a bad thing. But a showstopper is something is so good, you have to pause while everybody applauds at how good it was. And you want showstoppers. And they're like, we can't release this because there's too many showstoppers. I'm like, because it's too awesome? Like, I'm not following you here.
That makes no sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I've always understood the showstoppers like, you want that snap. You want a little pizzazz, that's like
it's the thing that's going to make everybody like cheer or stand up in their chair. And
right. That's like a strategy in sport where you start off with like something really snazzy to quote unquote intimidate your opponents. Or something of that nature.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, we're fucked.
Yeah.
To bring up the B word, which we did not bring up last episode. So it's season 4, episode 2. We're gonna bring up the B word very early on.
Let's do it.
Very good. Well, when you do Baker style bowling, you want your first bowler to be the second best bowler on the team usually, and you want them to be impressive. Like you want to start that first frame with a show of force. And then in your 6th frame, which is when the first bowler bowls again, you want to continue on the strikes, hopefully, but you want a strike your 4th, your 5th, and your 6th frame. So you want that to be a continuation, and that first ball down the lane, you want to be a splashy, impressive event and be like, oh, if this is their first bowler, they're gonna stomp on us.
Yeah.
Well,
show of force or intimidation tactics work in all sorts of things, not just the gladiatorial Coliseum ring
of Baker style bowling.
Yes. How often do you look up to the bowling emperor for the thumbs up, thumbs down in Baker style bowling?
Oh, just You got to run your team like a tight ship. You know what I mean? Like, you miss the spare, you're fucking gone.
Yep.
You're not
playing the Coliseum anymore, bud.
Yeah,
you're
sit in the back. You know what your punishment's going to be on Monday.
Yeah. I saw a video online. I should have sent it to you. It was if all sports were played with a bowling ball, which went about as you would expect, trying to like kick a bowling ball into a soccer net and
throwing it
so forth and so
80
far.
yards down the field or whatever. I'm not fluent in football. I don't know how long you can throw a football anymore.
I don't know. Probably 100 yards these days.
I don't know.
Imagine. They train for it.
Yeah, the guy in the Chiefs, he can throw the ball far.
Yeah.
I don't know his name though.
Yeah. Is that the Taylor Swift guy?
No, not the Taylor Swift guy. No, I don't think so.
I hear Chiefs and I think Taylor Swift. And it's messed up, our society these days.
I actually read an article before you came over about the Redskins because they're going to bring back the name. And they did.
Yeah, because who got upset about the name change?
Woke liberals.
No. Who got upset about them changing the name away from Redskins?
Oh, Native Americans.
There you go. Just like Hispanics, Mexicans are mad that when you want to ban Speedy Gonzalez. Mm-hmm. Like they love Speedy Gonzalez, from what I've heard.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He's the hero. He's the hero of the show. So, they went down this deep dive, and apparently the old Redskins logo was based on a real person.
Yeah, it was.
And they had a committee with, like, leaders of the Native Americans at the time. I watched they had a short little clip of, like, the grandson and the son of the guy who helped design the logo, and they were like, yeah, we're bringing it back. Like, this is a good thing. And they had the whole history behind painting your skin red. This is all Blackfoot in Montana tribal history they went through. And
for sure.
It was pretty interesting. I thought it was unique, and something that if you're not explained to it, it could be easy to say, oh, yeah, it's racist. But you go down a layer and it's like, well, no, it's legit. Yeah, maybe our culture is trying to mature past purely being reactionary, I guess.
I've seen so many memes online about news stories about, let's say, the DEI initiatives being canceled and everything, and most of this stuff has happened post the last election, and people are saying nature is healing.
Yes. Well, the New York Times recently to us, this is now 6 months after the fact for the listener, released that they, what would you say, stifled and hid a story that DEI had the exact opposite effect of its intended goal, which Nate and I discussed. And it's well, of course it did. Like, if you go to a DEI course, it makes you feel hatred in your heart, like for sure. It's like not a happy time. And I've been to many of these over my years, and it's never a happy time. Nobody leaves that being like, oh, I think that I'm happy today.
I should go hug someone who doesn't look like me.
Yeah, like, oh, this is great. Like, we're making progress in this country. Like, you never get that feeling of like, 1955 was a shithole in a lot of ways. Like, you don't get the feeling, oh, we're better than 70 years ago.
Yeah. Same chance of nuclear war breaking out. Same... Anyway, that's not really what we're talking about, though, is it?
Well, kind of.
All I can say is, like, Mike, why is it so dark in here? Aziz, light!
It's not that dark, Nate. It's just not sunny out. It's wintertime. Never sunny.
Well, these hieroglyphs aren't going to decipher themselves.
We are going to talk about The Fifth Element, which we mentioned last episode.
We briefly mentioned it because they put it back in theaters. And I mentioned I didn't get to go to theaters to see it, but I watched it on Blu-ray, and I think it was the very first time I ever saw it on Blu-ray because the Blu-ray menu was distinct enough that I would have remembered having watched it in HD before. But it's been many years since I had seen it. Of course, I watched it quite a bit on DVD and everything.
Right. I've seen it on TV 1,000 times. But Sarah and I went to see it in theater.
Yep.
And
my Sarah actually dressed up as Lilu Dallas for one of our Halloween parties, and I have some photos that I'm probably not even going to put on the Patreon for paid followers. We'll have to do a nice Ashes OnlyFans or something.
Yeah, Lilu.
Because she does not wear much in the movie.
No, it's
which is why it's a terrible, terrible movie, and nobody should ever watch it. That's disgusting. Where is it in HD, by the way? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think Fifth Element's a classic film now. I would say it qualifies.
100%.
Certainly getting re-released in theaters. They don't randomly choose the pictures they show in theater.
No, they don't. I know the theater that did it down by where I live is Imagine. And there's a location closer to me, and then there's a location closer to my buddy, and that's where he frequents. I used to be an AMC fanboy, but their theaters have rapidly declined in quality of, like, they smell like piss now. So like I don't go there, and the Imagines have good prices. They're not a sponsor, but they do like one classic movie a month showing, because a lot of these theaters have multiple screens. And they'll do one a month. And so I missed, they did this year, or 2024, they also did Neverending Story, which is one of my favorite films. And the German cut is a really good differing cut than the American version, because they use the original German score. And so there's no poppy, disco tracks, Neverending Story in there. And it gives you a bit more backstory on the wolf. But that's neither here nor there, because we're talking Fifth Element. But that theater chain does one a month of classic films, and it's like a two-day, run of vintage films or classic films. Like they did Christmas Vacation, Neverending Story, other older films that they bring back to put on the big screen for people.
Sure. We watched it at Marcus Theater Group in Waite Park. We drove down to Waite Park, and my wife has a Kia, so we have 3 cities in our area. It's Fargo, Duluth, and Waite Park. We have to go to one of those towns every time we need an oil change or any sort of maintenance. Sure. So we make a trip and take care of that sort of stuff when we do. And that Marcus does often. They do Studio Ghibli productions. They have a whole series.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's actually pretty nice. I enjoy it. First one that we went to for that, but
I think that we went to when they released Beauty and the Beast in 3D. I think we went to Waite Park because Sarah loves that film, and that's a decent film to watch in 3D because it's bright and there's colors. And a buddy and I went to see Thor: Dark World in 3D. And partook in some plant that grows in the ground somewhere, I guess. But everything there was more than 50 Shades of Grey, and so 3D was not conducive for that film, because you can't really distinguish the foreground, background, midground of the film when everything's just gray. So not a good 3D film, but for me, anything that's animated or brightly colored is good for 3D. Otherwise, the colors get too muddled if it's, a black and white film or like a grungier film that doesn't have much color.
Yeah, I mean, the 3D is a gimmick.
It's a gimmick.
You have to have a certain style of film. Like I watched Harry Potter in the chamber. No, not the chamber. It was Order of the Phoenix in 3D.
Okay, because that's one of the later ones.
Yeah, it's one of the
later ones. And
those
those are pretty dark and like blue tone or gray tone. Everything's kind of the same tone, color palette.
We saw it I went down to the Minneapolis and saw it in 3D IMAX when it came out.
Yeah.
And the flying scenes were kind of cool, but other than that, it didn't really serve any function.
The earlier films would be cool when it's more brightly colored. They're playing the Quidditch, like that kind of stuff would be neat.
We
or could potentially be
Harry Potter. My wife and I this last week, just as a film, kind of the film festival at home or whatever. And I made the joke like, oh, the Wizarding World, they don't really have very good lighting. Like they need some electricians here.
They need more Illuminatus or whatever it was, right?
They need some more illumination here. Like discover the Edison light bulb.
They could do the glow globes from Dune.
Oh yeah.
Get light anywhere you want.
Absolutely.
As long as you pay the right patent fees.
Right.
Venn-Key. Anyway, that's coming up.
Yeah.
Because I'm working through Machine Crusade, but we need to summarize the plot for Fifth Element.
Yes.
And then we can start talking about Fifth Element. And if anything surprised us on our reviewings, I don't know the last time or the previous time you'd seen it since seeing it in theaters.
It'd been a couple years.
I know I watched it within a day or two of you watching it because it was only in theaters for 2 days, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I think
so.
It was
we
one
watched
day.
It almost probably the same day.
Yep. Yeah. So, plot of the movie
starts out Ancient Egypt.
I'm
not saying it was aliens, but
aliens. Right. Yeah. 1912 or whatever year
Something
it was.
Like
they discover this tomb that has all the hieroglyphs, and it's a German guy, and he's got his assistant, and there's a priest there.
But because we'll call it this way. There's 2 white guys, an older white guy, a younger white guy. The older white guy is the professor, whatever, or and then the younger white guy is his assistant or his son. It wasn't really.
It's his assistant.
It wasn't really clear. It doesn't really
he's
matter.
He's like an artist.
Doesn't
he's
matter
trying
to the point.
Do it. And...
Well, he's trying to. Yeah, he's drawing sketches of the wall. And kind of like translating what the guy is telling him to write down. So he's the scribe or something. So yeah, I guess assistant. It wasn't really clear if he was a son or like nephew. I mean, back then you'd bring your family members along because they're cheaper than
yeah. Treat your family.
Else,
treat your family like business partner and all that. But Yeah, so they find this discovery, and they're like, this is going to be the biggest thing ever, and the priest comes up.
Well, and they're supposedly friendly with the priest, because the priest allowed them in there.
Yeah, the priest
and they knew the priest, and the priest was then going to poison their glasses of
wine.
Just water.
Was it water or was it wine?
I think it was just water.
It was water.
He brought in water. He's like, you must be famished. And the guy was like, no. This is a huge discovery. We need something better than water, and dumps it out.
Yep. And the guy
bring the wine. And then the priest is like, he's a nervous priest, because he's trying to keep the peace with who we're soon to be introduced to. But at initial viewing, you don't know why he's nervous or why he's trying to kill them, or other than he's trying to keep the secret that they just discovered. But then why would you in? Anyway. Sorry,
and then the horribly clunky aliens show up, and they basically kill them, other than the priest, and take this secret rocks that are supposed to unleash this fifth element force, the super being.
Yeah. I don't think that did they kill him on purpose, or it was kind of just a haphazard?
I think it was haphazard, not on purpose
stuff, because these aliens are kind of like peace loving and, be ready, because they're fighting some bigger force that the priest is aware of and they're aware of, but the two Germans are not aware of.
Yeah. It's some alien supernatural type deal. And then, of course,
the ship design was pretty cool. Like the little landing appendage that kind of came down. And I mean, that's kind of the coolest thing about sci-fi movies, especially earlier sci-fi movies, is they all have their own very unique spaceship designs. Like 2001: A Space Odyssey the spaceship doesn't look anything like any other spaceship, and Star Trek versus Star Wars, the big main ones, right? And then in here, like the spaceships and stuff are very unique as well, which is cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, where it's just an action movie based on
it's not derivative of something else. It's a pretty unique.
Very unique design. Then we fast forward. Now we're in the future.
Bruce Willis is a taxi driver.
But
in New
York City.
Ex-military.
Super secret, elite ex-military. Of course, it has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, has an ex-wife, I think, and then his mom keeps calling him all the time throughout the film.
Yeah, she's like hilarious. A naggy person. Yeah. He's like the stereotypical Brooklyn taxi driver from the 80s. Mm-hmm. But he's
served in Vietnam, now he drives a taxi cab.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Did things he can't talk about in Nam, but drives a taxi cab. He's close to getting his taxi license revoked. He's got like a couple points left on his license or something. He lives in and it's a dystopian-esque kind of futuristic view of New York. I don't know if it's 100% dystopian, but he lives in a little like one-room thing, and his shower pops out of the floor, and then it goes down, and like his table to eat is on top of the shower. And so it's all like
his bed self-changes. Goes in and out, and it's like a closet that he lives in. And they have this is future further in the film. He has a window that opens, and then the fast food restaurant pulls up, and it's like a little ship, but it's
that flies,
flies,
like a hover
like
ship.
Literally a.
But it looks like an old like Chinese galleon or something like that.
Yep, It's very visually pleasing, and it's fun and light and very colorful.
And the CGI for all the flying cars is actually decent.
Oh, it looks legit. Like it looks great even today.
Yes.
Which tells me they probably layered CG over actual objects that looked like what they were supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So, Bruce Willis, super secret spy.
Yep.
He does his taxi driver stuff. And
he gets a visit from his ex-military buddy who's still in the military advising the president.
Yeah, and he's like, you're the last colonel.
You're the only one of your team that survived, and you were highly decorated, and we need you for this mission. And he's like, nah, interested in that. And then
he fights against like local scum.
Yeah, so
he's
like
these crazy sci-fi weapons.
Yeah, because somebody wears a hat with like a JPEG printout of what the hallway looks like from his security camera. So it looks like nobody's out there, but he rings the doorbell and he opens it, and there's this like tweaker out there.
Yeah, very clearly a tweaker too.
And then, and then it's like Bruce Willis has this whole rack of like confiscated weapons, allegedly. Like people who tried to rob him, and he's like, you know what you're talking about. And, disarms them, sends them on the way.
Yeah, it does a great job of setting the tone where it's like
without a whole lot of exposition. It's all showing.
Showing.
I wish more movies would do that these days. Is you show, you don't tell. You're a movie. You're a visual medium. Show it. You can show it and have these details that on future viewings you pick up more and more things.
Well, Nate, you would have to try to create a film instead of creating media for a streaming service for that to be the case,
You mean I'd have to try and create a film instead of one of the modern day PowerPoint slides that's all text, even though it allows you to put pictures in there and a separate section for notes that nobody else sees, but you have to put all your words on the slide and then read every word verbatim.
Don't put bullet points for notes.
Just put your notes on the slide and then pick a background color that makes it very hard to read the notes, so that when you're reading it verbatim, I've already read the slide 5 times before you get through the second sentence because you're a slow reader.
Yeah, don't do a dark background with like bright yellow letters. Something where you can really see it.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking, we want like a gray background and then like slightly darker gray text. That would be great. If you could do that, that would be fantastic.
Beef supreme. That's what we need.
Or pick one of those colorblind those colorblind tests where they're the dots and the numbers of a slightly different color in the middle. Like, just do that for the text. Like, do that so nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
But yeah, so there's the 4 stones, I think they showed the stones in the beginning bit.
They did, and that's what the aliens took.
Aliens
and they
came
left
and collected
the
stones. They left behind the key to open the little sanctuary where the stones need to be placed.
Yep. And one of the aliens die as well, so it's not just the people. So
yeah,
they're not shown to be aggressive and negative. Like,
no.
Yeah,
they're
it was
trusted
war.
Alien, and things went south and whatever. And then the 5th element. The hieroglyph looks like a person, so that they assume it's like a person or some other kind of thing, and they take the case and go. And then, they cut forward to modern times. Bruce Willis says no to the thing. And they're also investigating this like black hole / planetoid sphere.
Yeah, that shows up and they attack it.
And every time they shoot it, it gets bigger.
And it attacks back.
And of course, like Ian Holm is there. And he's the descendant of the priest, or, part of the priesthood.
His predecessor of some variety.
Post-decessor, because his predecessor was the one in Egypt, and he's carried on the line, and he's got the little Fifth Element symbol thing on his belt buckle, or whatever it is. And
the president,
he's trying to advise
a black guy with a bad eye.
Yeah, he's trying to advise the president that they need to find these stones and the Fifth Element thing, and there's a way to defeat this thing, and they shouldn't shoot it with missiles. But of course, the military is rah, let's shoot it with missiles and more missiles. And then at one point, even the ship commander was like, what's bigger than what we just sent at it? And they're like, nothing, sir. So you complete the military, industrial complex.
Yeah, it's the same old story that you hear everywhere. And then the aliens show up, which there are aliens in this universe. They're already aware of other species, but apparently
they
these
have
guys are
yacht liners off to other planets for vacations and things like that. Yeah,
it's Futureverse. These aliens show up, they get attacked by these other evil aliens who look like pigmen, largely, and the story ensues. They're like, oh.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this, Mike, but they take a hand from one of the slain aliens who they're just trying to get information from, who turns out to be Lilu, and they reconstruct the entirety of the body from the hand. And the hand is in a glove, and the glove is holding the one handle from the case that the stones were in, and later you see it, and there's only one handle on the case, but it's never explained explicitly. But if you look closely, when that scene happens and they put the hand of the alien in the reconstructor, it's in a glove holding the handle of the stone case.
Oh, nice. That's good detail. I did not necessarily pick up on.
Yeah.
So anyway, the ship gets attacked. They find it. They find one DNA sample, of course. And it's of Lilu. They don't know that at the time. They reconstruct it. They
think it was a man because it's all these aliens look in their suits.
Yeah, they're armored alien beings, and they're like, oh, this has 40 chains. They do all this technobabble,
like quadruple the amount of DNA points a human has, or something like that.
And it's supposed to be the perfect
being.
And of course, it's Mila Jovovich, who very
at the
attractive.
time was the perfect being.
Yeah, very attractive. And you get some nudies, of course. This is a 90s sci-fi film, so you got to get some naked pics of the supermodel that is your main actress.
Yep, writhing around in the reconstruction tube.
I wanted to bring this up. So we have Bruce Willis, who's one of the biggest movie stars of the day.
Mm-hmm.
We have Gary Oldman, who's one of the biggest movie stars of the day.
Yep.
We have the priest. What's his name?
Ian Holm.
Great actor. Yep. Legendary. Then you get
Bilbo from Lord of the Rings.
Yep. And then we get Mila Jovovich, who's like the biggest supermodel of the era in one of her very early acting films. And she's good.
Oh, yeah.
So where are these talented people now? Like, where are the supermodels who can act, who will like show a titty here and there, but then also do like action films and comedy and like are truly talented thespians, if you will?
Yeah. I would put up Mia Goth.
Okay. I'd put up Anne Hathaway. I think
she
could do it.
Just who I've seen from X, Pearl, and Maxine. It's a horror trilogy in the vein of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. But there's way more gore in these than there ever was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because all the gore in Texas Chainsaw Massacre took place off camera. But they were so effective at showing or leading you to believe what was happening.
I have seen the original, and it is...
it's beautifully shot.
It's a great film.
And so it's in the vein of that, but she plays dual roles in X, one role in Pearl and one role in Maxine. but the range of her acting is far beyond anybody you would ever put in a horror movie generally. Like I was like blown away. And I am not often blown away by people's acting in films.
Right.
These days. These days.
It was a horror film.
I was going in expecting like a blood fest, which, yes, there was some of that.
Which is what you're there for.
But like the complexities of the character and her acting through it and everything. And she's been in some other things like Lars von Trier's, she was in Nymphomaniac Part 1 and Part 2, which I haven't seen yet. So she's not afraid to be not wearing anything on camera, and she's not wearing stuff in these films sometimes.
Right.
But like her acting chops are definitely there.
Right. And Anne Hathaway has publicly said that she would do nudes for films if it made sense. And she's a good actress and attractive, and she's been in a lot of films that are very good. She's good in them.
Yep.
She's good in them. She's got some range. So I guess there are actresses out there. It's just that maybe we're soured on the modern media environment where
maybe it's the modern media. Maybe it's I mean, I think there's a fine line because there are so many, and there's a whole subgenre of films, black exploitation films.
I love myself some black exploitation.
Right.
I love it.
And that's a whole subgenre, but you could get into the argument, like, is it exploitation for exploitation's sake? Is it film for film's sake? Is it, what is it? What isn't it?
You can make the argument that like Pam Grier's Pam Grier. She's legendary for a reason.
Well, then you got people like Tom Hanks, we talk about this, apologizing publicly for playing a man with AIDS in Philadelphia story or something.
A gay man with AIDS.
Yeah.
It was because of the gay part, not the AIDS part. It's like ridiculous.
I understand that. I'm just saying, like, the modern world has gotten to the point where nobody wants to offend anybody, so you lose out on some of like the Fifth Element stuff. Not that it's super racy, but you're not getting the same sort of things.
Yeah, you're doing what you want because it makes sense in the film and it makes it better.
Yeah.
It works in context. There's not gratuitous nudity in the Fifth Element.
No.
You could make a PG-13 cut. The nudity isn't like an important part of the story other than it's supposed to show off like
I'd say yes and no because you've got the priest, Ian Holm, and he's got his younger, like, much younger, like late teens, maybe very early 20s disciple or follower or whatever. Assistant, right? Yeah. And, but even Ian Holm, who's supposedly old and mature and shouldn't be tempted by the perfect being, and he wouldn't have been had the perfect being been a man, but because it's Mila Jovovich.
Right.
And there's several scenes in there where he's fumbling with his words and and she has no modesty in terms of humanity because she's playing an alien, right? So she doesn't mind disrobing right there, putting on new clothes or whatever, because they're like, oh, we brought out some new clothes you could try on. And she throws off the blanket or whatever it was. And the priest's like, divert thine eyes kind of thing and stuff.
Yeah. So it is a plot point.
I mean,
it's a plot point. It makes sense in the story.
It makes sense in the story. It doesn't feel like it's exploitive or, we're doing this to get viewers or get audience members.
Right.
I mean, of course, it's a selling point, but I don't think that was the sole artistic reason for doing so.
Yes.
I guess. I mean, things are more complex than black and white.
Yes. So, yeah, they get together and they, of course, have a crazy adventure, sci-fi style.
You got to talk about, because Bruce Willis doesn't want to go on this mission, which is the same mission that he ends up going on later, because Mila Jovovich is fleeing the lab facility and does a Peter Pan right here off this building, right off this dam, all of the witness, and lands into Bruce Willis's cab car.
Yes, and the police show up.
And then he tries to protect her because, it's Mila Jovovich.
Right, and it's Bruce Willis.
Perfect being.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to help her because she can't speak English yet, but she reads a little brochure because she's an alien. And so she goes, please help, or whatever. And then that's just enough to pull on Bruce Willis's heartstrings to get him to save her. Right. And then he's involved with it.
Right. And her learning of English and the culture is very well done, shown.
Yes.
Again, it's shown, not like a text box. They show her learning over time.
Yeah, but it's always kind of I would say like an intermittent scene where you're back at the scene. She's reading stuff on like whatever their version of Wikipedia would be. And then it pans back and then the action happens. So it's not the foreground action, even though they open the scene on that.
Right. It's a sub-story.
It's implied. It's an
implied story. Yeah. The action ensues and we meet all these different characters. And then, of course, they save the world. So that's the plot synopsis. Just cut it short. Because I don't want to ruin the movie for those of you who haven't seen it, even though I would say it's entering the zone of being a classic.
We just ruined Gladiator 2 for everybody.
No, Gladiator 2 is not going to be a classic.
I never said that. I'm just saying it was released more recently than Fifth Element by a couple of weeks, I think.
That shows the level of respect I have
I know,
for this film versus the.
But so basically, they rig a giveaway, right? Lottery for a free trip.
The president and the military rig a lottery for a free trip where this alien singer is holding the stones.
Yes.
And so
they have to go there. But then along the way, he meets Chris Tucker, who is very effeminate, like radio star.
Chris Tucker is 20 years too early to be a modern social media character, but
he was very much an influencer.
A very flamboyant person wearing a dress that is a womanizer, and all the women are wearing very scantily. They're wearing very sexual outfits.
Yeah,
like stewardesses.
Even the stewardesses. But there is a scene where I don't know, this scene is maybe not even relevant to the movie. There's a scene about 5 minutes worth of him performing oral sex on one of the stewardesses.
Yeah, he's banging her. Yeah, he's
yeah.
It's like it cuts in and out. It cuts in.
Well,
with
it cuts in and out.
It's
not like a gratuitous like take away from the movie type of thing, but it's just showing his character. And I don't know, because this was a 90s film, and The Sopranos was a 90s TV show, and there's a whole episode or two of The Sopranos where the main character's uncle was discovered that he likes performing oral sex on women, and they made fun of him for it.
Sure.
So I don't know if there's some kind of like 90s sub-joke where men didn't perform oral sex on women.
I wasn't an adult
kind of
then,
thing.
so
I wasn't an adult then either. I just mean like it was in the movie, and he's like obviously coming up for air and to talk to her and then going back down, and she's, digging it, of course, because whatever. But I don't know if there's some subtext that just kind of lost because that's no longer a taboo anymore.
Yeah, it's not a culturally relevant point. And
now it's more culturally relevant if somebody finds out you don't. They'll be like, you're not a giving lover. Like, fuck is wrong with you?
You're not trying to sexually please your partner.
Yeah.
Like that's
like boomer humor type of thing.
It was kind of, like I guess that was a theme in old media where it's like women are not sexually satisfied because the men are lazy, sort of thing. And I don't know. That hasn't been a feature.
It's not
of
really a thing. No,
my experience being born in the '80s and growing up in the '90s.
Yeah,
that just wasn't.
Well, we weren't. I mean, we would have been way too young in the 90s to be doing any of that kind of stuff anyway. Like
the first time
acceptable
I saw it,
reasons,
right? I was too young to see it in theaters when it first came out.
Yeah.
But
I mean, when you're 10, you probably shouldn't be performing oral sex on people.
Probably not.
That would be my vote.
I would say that would be wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we talked about this, and we'll talk about it now. The Chris Tucker character didn't exist in real media at that time. It was kind of a projection.
No, it was, I would call it, because I've met some radio people, and I worked at a television station that had a radio station as well. And so working with, and this is a very small town in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. But they were all known by everybody in the town because it's the only radio station in town. And they had the only local news for the people in town. And people had their own opinions of these people. But these people are very, very egotistical and to an extent flamboyant. So what the movie was doing was taking this well-known trope of media people, media personalities being a certain way and then dialing it up to 11.
And now Chris Tucker is the social media. Like, he's Jake Paul. Not exactly the same, but it is over the top. And the show being recorded live during all the action of the film is an ongoing thing. And at the end,
which is basically live streaming.
Live streaming, yeah. He was live streaming everything that was going on to this famous show. So all the people listening, he's the biggest star. All this is being known to everybody on the planet. That's one of the undertones. It's like, this is not secret information. Mm-hmm. The military and the president are acting like it's secret information, but then simultaneously, Chris Tucker is live streaming
it.
All of this.
And it's hilarious because like the action's still going on and his like end time is on. And he goes, well, that's all for the show. Listen again tomorrow or something. Like the action's still going on. But he has to cut out because
his time on the
slot
radio
is done.
over.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yes, it's a very fun film. A lot of great performances. It's a sci-fi and it's got deeper themes than a normal comedy would, but there are very much so the comedic elements within the film.
I watched it in theater, and everybody in the theater was, of course, our age
into
or
it.
older.
And into it.
Everybody was into it, and it was the laugh track in the theater was on point. And people cheered, and it was a very a very positive experience.
Almost as if you go, and I haven't gone yet, but it'd be fun to go to a live screening of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I have not yet done that either, and apparently it's a thing in
It is
Minneapolis to go to
definitely a
midnight
thing.
screenings.
Yes.
And I would love to go and not necessarily do the dress up.
Let's go.
Yes. I know that my Sarah would love me to dress up as Meatloaf.
Yeah.
I don't have a leather jacket. I don't have a black leather jacket, but
One could easily be procured, Mike.
yeah, I'm pretty
One
sure
could
I could
easily
find
be
one at
procured.
a secondhand store for
Yeah.
next to
Even if
nothing.
it was pleather. Just
Pleather
for
is
the-
better because
just
I'm
for
going
the
to throw it away.
costume. Yeah. Or keep it for those hot, steamy nights.
Yeah, right. Maybe Al can borrow me his leather jacket if he still has it.
I'm sure he would.
I'm sure he would.
Sure he would.
But yeah, I highly recommend it. We'll still talk about
We're
it.
going to keep
but
talking about it, but that's
Yeah.
kind of the plot summary. And,
the plot summary and
of course, in most of the movies, the good guys triumph. And,
yeah, the good guy wins. And there's a shit ton of explosions.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like
But we didn't really talk about Gary Oldman's character yet.
no, we haven't talked about Gary Oldman. We will.
We will.
The one thing that they can't make this movie today, all of the background actors are attractive. There are no ugly people in this story. There's not a single ugly person. The ugliest person is the assistant, and he's not ugly. He's just young and immature.
I don't know. I thought those like warthog-looking aliens were pretty not attractive.
The aliens are unattractive. The human characters.
The
president.
That's speciesist.
The president has a fake glass eye, but he's buff. Like these are all like movie actors. They're supposed to be nice looking.
Yeah. Well, even the
superhero people.
Even Bruce Willis is a taxi driver, right? He doesn't have like the beer belly.
No.
Yeah. I mean, he's ex-military, so it's explained. But I guess a lot of times when you have kind of the future view of society, a lot of times, depending on the era that the future viewers looked into, there aren't a lot of overweight or sick or diseased people because they assume all of that stuff is cured.
And this very much assumes that they have access to proper medical care and nutritional diets that are not
Soylent Green.
Yeah. So back to the Fifth Element.
Yeah, so access to good health care, allegedly. It's hilarious because somehow, the mom heard about Bruce Willis's character winning the cruise before Bruce Willis even knew about everything, and the Chinese meal guy saw him get a mail in his mail tube, like in the pneumatic tubes, which don't exist hardly anymore.
Right, and it was a fake out because the first one was a nasty gram, and then the next one was the winner.
Yeah, he got fired from his taxi job because he tanked his car.
Yeah, he crashed his car.
Had a perfect being drop through the roof of his car. And
then ran from the cops. And
got shot up.
And there's some pretty intense car scene, future car chase type of stuff.
Yeah, and something that is in just a little bit of the film, just a tiny little bit of the film, is he goes down. And he's like, once you're below the smog, we'll be fine. And so like New York has been built on New York and stuff. And it's it's not a common trope, but I know Futurama has New York where it's built on the ruins of old New York, and you can go down into the sewers and see old New York in the animated show. And this one, they go down in the smog, and there's like a whole other kind of like world down there, and they don't spend much time there. They're there just to hide from the cops, but it's like one of those things where they give just enough stuff to add depth to the world.
To the world, yeah. There's that underground.
It's the world building, yeah.
That despite our character being a lowly taxi driver, he is above.
He does not go down there.
He does not go down into the underworld.
Usually.
Yeah. Like he's aware tertiarily it's there, but he's not of that sub-society.
And then let's talk about Gary Oldman, because
before we talk about Gary Oldman,
I love Gary, man.
I'm halfway through my cigar.
Yes.
Nate is almost halfway. He's about there. I like this cigar. I like this
cigar a lot.
As much, maybe even more than the A10.
I like this maybe more than the A10.
This is right up our alley. This is up our alley.
Yeah, this is more up our alley.
Yeah, this is a Maduro that is spicy. It's got a full flavor profile.
Yep.
Not too spicy. But it's not complex. It's just a very nice profile of a Maduro cigar. It's exactly what you want.
Yes.
So it's easy
that
sell.
Is true.
That's an easy sell.
I'm already smoking it, Mike. You don't have to sell me on it.
Yeah, exactly. So Gary Oldman.
He's a what he calls himself a merchant. He's an arms dealer.
He's an arms dealer.
He's arming these pig, like, I can't remember what their alien race is called in the movie.
Yeah, they're outlaws. They're
outlaws.
Alien race.
But he's, shady as all arms dealers kind of are.
And he has this crazy hairdo get up with a plastic thing on his head.
Yeah, with like an acrylic, like,
yeah. And my Sarah said, if you didn't know it was Gary Oldman, you could easily not know it was Gary Oldman, because they did. He doesn't have makeup on, but they changed his visual appearance with these accoutrements.
Yes. And his voice, he does a little bit different voice than he normally does.
Yeah, like a southern-ish
Yep.
weird, whiny.
A little more nasally, a little more higher pitched than he normally talks.
Yeah, it's great. He's a great
fantastic
sci-fi villain. Like, you love to hate him. You love to hate. You love to see his action too, because he's going out and killing people and kicking ass and taking names. He's not a wussy.
No,
he's not like a loser guy.
Yeah.
He's a kick-ass character.
He's playing the long game, but he had been contacted previously. You find out later in the film by the orb thing, the planet thing.
Yeah, by the evil aliens that are trying to destroy.
Well, the biggest evil that's coming that the Fifth Element is supposed to prevent.
Right, exactly.
And it calls him on the phone for some reason. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. It's funny. It's hilarious. And he's like, "Did you get the things?" And he's trying to get the stones too. So Gary Oldman's trying to get the stones. Well, he's trying to sell these arm shipments. He's trying to trade arms for the stones through these pig things, and they didn't bring the stones. So then he's like, "Well, if you guys were really warriors, you'd ask about this red button on the bottom of the gun. You can get 2 crates because he brought me 2 things, or 1 crate because he brought me 1 thing, or whatever."
Yeah.
And then of course it's like the auto destruct.
Yeah, and they're like crazy future weapons that do everything, including a net.
Yeah, it's like and a net, and it's like this ridiculous. It's almost like walking into a 1960s, early 70s Bond film, and Q is like, "Oh, I've got this pen, and it does this, and you can kill the person that way or this way." And
I got Batman vibes, like
vibes
60s
too,
Batman vibes.
Yeah, Batman's utility belt in a gun.
Right, exactly.
So
it's just it's good fun, and it's not a dark film. It is all.
It's
fun.
not a dark film. It's a little dark. I mean, it's got some subtones, subtext where she learns about war, and she's like, "Why would I even want to help you? Like, the alien's going to come and kill you. Like, what's the point?
Right.
If you're just going to kill yourselves later."
Love conquers all.
Love conquers all. I mean, it's a very feel-good story all throughout, but there are some moments where it's, a little bit more...
Well, yeah, you can't have a feel-good story if you don't have dark elements to it. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's all good fun. Everything's pretty much bright and fun. I mean, she wears like orange suspenders and...
her hair is
red, her hair is orange.
Very orangey. And everybody is beautiful and bright colors. Everything is bright colors. Yeah. It's not some dark dystopian future necessarily. There's dystopian elements.
I mean, like, talk
it.
about like how dark it is that the pop singer they're going to see puts on a hell of a show, and then the stones are in me, and he has to like dig the stones out of her abdomen.
Yep. And she's a hot blue alien chick with tentacles, of course.
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't it be? Well, and a ton of practical effects, too. A ton of practical effects. As you can see, they have explosions that are real explosions, and they have levels of floors falling, and you can tell that it's actual debris falling.
It's all real stuff.
Yeah, it's all real stuff.
The flying cars, no, but...
They used their CGI
They used everything very effectively.
Yes.
Very effective.
Yes. And back to Gary Oldman. He's a very realistic villain, arms dealer character.
Yeah.
Despite his weird quirks. The weird quirks are what makes it sci-fi.
The weird quirks are what makes him, I don't know, not a completely hateable character.
Yeah, Zorg.
Like, you don't really hate him, but he's got like a little like elephant type of thing with a long trunk that's like his emotional support animal that he pulls out of his desk every once in a while. And then you've got, he actually meets the priest Ian Holm, and he almost chokes to death on a cherry or something. Yeah. And Ian Holm lectures him before saving him, like as he's like suffocating on this fucking cherry. He's like, "See, all your techno babble bullshit, it's not going to save your life right now, and you could have been taken out of this world by a cherry," and then pats him on the back and the cherry pops out. Yeah. I mean, there's some really good like social commentary and power dynamic interplay all throughout the film, which is great, and they don't do that a whole lot in films anymore. No, it's a film of the past. Like nothing about it could be made today. In many ways, they wouldn't do it. Yeah. Which they should. They would choose not to. They would choose not to do it. They could do it. Yeah, it's like one of my favorite memes I've ever seen. Because it starts out to try and get you inside. They could never make Tropic Thunder today. Modern times, you could never make Tropic Thunder today, because the actors would read the script and they'd say, "This movie's already been made. Tropic Thunder's already been made." Right. Yeah. So, I mean, some of it is that, and I think some of it depends on what films you watch, because you can watch indie films or foreign films, and they're usually pushing the bounds more nowadays than any major Hollywood studio is pushing bounds. Right. And this was a major production. This was a major production. A huge hit. Yes. Obviously, something that like we spent a significant amount, not significant in hurting my paycheck, but we spent a lot of money to drive hours. Yeah, to see a movie you've already seen. To see a movie we've already seen that we have at home, but in a theater. Yeah. Like the tickets were... It's a good enough movie that you will pay extra and take time out of your day to go see a experience of the film. Exactly. Right? Yeah, it's $50 just to get tickets and popcorn or whatever. Yep. And then plus the driving and all that
extra cost, but
Yeah, but it's worth it for a good film.
oh, it's definitely worth it.
There are,
I drove for longer than the movie.
Yeah.
by a long margin.
Yes. There's a handful of films I would love to see on the big screen, so if they ever come back, and it's just time.
They will.
They'll eventually come back.
They will.
And
It'll
somebody
be.
will show it.
We saw when Sarah and I first started dating. We saw a midnight showing of Beetlejuice, and awesome. All adults.
Yep.
It had a bar, just like the theater we went to,
Yeah.
and everybody's having a good time. The popcorn, having a couple drinks, and
You see the second one?
I have not seen the second
Okay,
one.
I did.
Was it worth it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, there we go.
It's fine.
Fine or no better.
Yeah, it's fine. It's no better.
I mean, the first one's legendary. It's hard to.
First one's legendary. Yeah. It's one of those ones where does Beetlejuice really need a sequel? No. Could they have done it in a better way? I mean, the one selling point was that they had all the original cast back.
What about the dad?
No, because he was dead. He got eaten by a shark or something.
Yeah.
So he was back partially in the afterlife, right? But he wasn't back. But they had, the main main ones back and stuff. So it was fine. It's not essential viewing. I think if you like the Beetlejuice and you like kind of the vibe, it's fine. But I'm trying to remember what that movie was. Oh yeah, the newest Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, where they had this whole subplot of like the daughter of Ivan getting like a lady boner for this ghost that was evil or something. That was like a major subplot of the movie and made no sense really, because like,
is that the one with the kids and they have the 15-year-old girl? And
yeah,
I watched that. I did not like it. I thought it was trash.
I thought it
broke reality for me.
I thought Afterlife was fine. They had a nice little send off to Ivan, who had died, who had passed, at the end of it, because it was his.
Are you talking about Ian?
Ian, yeah. Well, the actor
Harold Ramis.
Harold Ramis.
Yeah.
Ivan Ramis, or is one of his brother or something that directed.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. There's a couple of them. I'm bad with names sometimes.
Yeah.
Listeners, you should not be surprised. I'm bad with names and pronunciations. So, but Harold Ramis is that's his character's daughter, the girl. And in Afterlife, it was kind of a good kind of send-off to everything. There was a weird, huge product placement to Walmart that was very distracting.
Sure. With
Paul Rudd running around with mini marshmallow men running around for no reason. And Afterlife has the exact same plot as Ghostbusters, the first one, the original one. So it's kind of like, are you even trying at this point? But it had some good scenes and a good little send-off because they brought him back as like a CGI ghost. He didn't say anything, but, it's kind of like was there, and you got the whole crew from the original one back on film together.
Sure.
But the second one is kind of like
meh
and dumb.
The Fifth Element, something bringing up product placement. Not product placement in The Fifth Element. Like, it's future world. None of the brands that we know now exist anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of. That's the...
Yeah.
They have, like, cigarette advertisements.
I thought there was, like, a McDonald's or a Coke banner in
there might have been.
Scenes.
There might have been in
But those are kind of eternal now.
Right. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's
and they
ubiquitous
have, like,
with
cigarettes with
New York
like
City, right?
2 inches of filter and a half inch of cigarette, and they have, like, a ration.
Yeah.
You have a ration of cigarettes you're allowed, like 5 cigarettes a day, but it's only half-inch cigarette with 2 inches.
Yeah, it wasn't a ration. He was trying to quit smoking.
Yeah.
So that's why he was on his own prescribed rationing of them. Because I caught that. I mean, there's so much stuff when you go and rewatch a movie you hadn't seen since childhood or seen for 10 years, let's say.
Right. Well, it's
5-10 years.
It's a it's a world that's built.
It was made by competent filmmakers.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
You can watch it again and again, and you're going to pick up new elements every single time.
On Fifth Elements.
So it's a classic.
No, I think it's a classic. It's one of those films that they spent time fully developing. The story, the sets, the costumes, the casting, the editing.
The costumes are super simple. You could get them from used stores or whatever.
It's not like they're wearing some goofy stuff.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
It's like, like 70s Goodwill finds.
Yeah.
What we would call vintage these days. But it all matches and it all makes sense and it's all put together.
And they have like drug addicts and they're clearly drug addicts.
I want to talk a little bit. The pig aliens can shapeshift.
Yes, they have a device.
Yeah. So... And then it's funny, it's hilarious because you've got the one lady at the ticketing counter. And so all these people are claiming to be Corbin Dallas, Bruce Willis's character, to claim the prize of the free tickets. But he beat everybody there with Mia. and was already on board. And so she's like, well, I've already had these tickets claimed and blah, blah, blah. And so it's like the one henchman from Gary Oldman.
Zorg.
Yeah, Zorg.
Zorg.
And then it's two of these warthog alien things, but one is shapeshifted to like a very attractive woman who's wearing panties or like a thong, and then her skirt is like translucent green or transparent green, and it's like plastic. It looks terribly uncomfortable. Like you see like the ass cheeks walking away from the camera, because the camera, of course, 90s is like right there. And but then she talks with like the warthog voice, like a male warthog voice, like, oh yeah, we couldn't get that ticket. That's too bad.
Yeah, and she's got like sores, like meth sores or whatever.
Yeah.
She would be. Well, I'm sure the actress is she was clearly an attractive woman with makeup.
Yes,
to make her look like a drug addict
or whatever. Yeah. So it's hilarious because and you've got the tweaker, right? That one of many apparently through the visual cues of his gun rack that comes down. But he lives in a neighborhood where it's normal for him to get tweakers trying to rob him for drug money.
Right. Yeah.
But it's all not explicitly stated, which is awesome because it's a film that's made by people who know how to make film.
World building.
They world build, and they don't spell things out for the audience, because I remember the first time watching it, it's like, what? Like, okay, we got the stones, we got there's a fifth element, they got the 4 stones, 4 elements, and like, all this other stuff. And
and the stones are just shitty stone props that could be made in my
they're like styrofoam.
Shop out my
like
garage.
You could make it out of styrofoam.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
sure
spray
it
paint
was.
it.
I'm sure it was.
But it was cool because there was a little like mental puzzle that they purposely made the audience get before the characters got. So you're kind of like almost yelling at the screen, where it's like air for air and fire for fire. And like that's the instructions that they got from, I don't know who, like Ian Holm characters. Like the sacred texts say air for air.
Blow on it, light a fire, get water on it.
But they took them longer than it would take, hopefully, than it would take the audience. The audience was supposed to get it first. Because then the one guy kind of like coughed, like the priest's assistant kind of like coughed on the air one, and it opened up a little bit. And they're like, how did you do that? Do everything you just did. And he's like, well, I was reciting this prayer. And you're like, no, you idiot, you blow on, like the audience is like, you blow on it. Like, what do you, so it's like it gets you involved in a non-condescending way.
Right, yeah. And they have one match to light the fire. And
like, can he do it? Can he not do it?
Yeah, it's like
it builds tension in a fun way, in a way that doesn't put down the audience, where a lot of modern films, I feel the exposition puts down the audience so much with like the voiceovers and explanations of everything, and it's like,
let's have 5 minutes of exposition to explain the technobabble instead of just letting it flow.
Build the world around it, the rest will come.
Right.
If you build it, it will come. Yeah, man, I don't know. Good films bring such joy to me. And bad films don't. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
When you can go out and you can go watch The Fifth Element, and you can dedicate a whole like podcast episode to it and talking about it. And it's an old film nowadays, and everything is so perfectly done. Sure, I'm sure there's goofs and stuff, right? And I'm sure there's things that are kind of like, well, this doesn't, if you sit down and think about it, like, does this really make sense? Like, I don't know. But in the film, you never have time really to think about it, because it's always moving and progressing the plot forward, and it's giving you just enough to stay with it, but not enough on the first viewing to foresee what's coming necessarily. And you've got crazy characters like Chris Tucker's character and even Gary Oldman's character, where it's like they're kind of wild cards. You don't know what they're going to do next. Is Chris Tucker's character going to like say something at the wrong time and get everybody killed? Is Gary Oldman going to go on a rampage and kill everybody? Like, nobody really knows. So you got kind of like, you've got that tension. You've got a crazily well-designed world and setting, and you've got a good backstory for all the characters, except maybe Lilu. Like she's the mystery character, right? So she's supposed to be the mystery character. But everybody else has a really good background, because you've already seen the ancient priest in 1911 or whatever it was, or, in the beginning. And then he's the continuation of that line of priests, or that sect, or that order. Yeah, he's
part of the order. So yeah, that's not a perfect film, obviously. There is no such thing, but it's wonderful.
Yes, a very good film. Makes me wish more filmmakers would do that instead of what was the one that had De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio in it? The Killers of the Flower Moon. Instead of making a 4.5 hour long movie that has no point to it, I know it's based off of a book, but you could have taken that time that you devoted to that and made a better film.
Right.
I mean, that director, I don't remember if it was Scorsese or
it was a very famous director. Yeah,
someone,
I know the movie you're talking
but they
about.
have supposedly the chops to be able to do a really good movie. But I understand they're past their prime, but just take a little extra time and make a really good movie. You know, you can make a good movie. You don't have to make not a good movie. It's the same with the Disney live action remakes. They're just doing that to extend their copyrights on their original animated films, so they don't have any motivation to make a good movie, but they could if they wanted. They have the money to do so.
The crazy part about the Disney remakes is now they're spending a lot of money on them. An insane amount of money for a movie that's going to lose money. They have to know.
Yeah.
They have to know. The people making this film know it's going to lose money.
Yeah.
So why would you spend any money on it? Like, it's going to be a net loss. Why don't you make that net loss as minimal as possible? If you're not going to try to make a legitimate movie. If you made a legitimate movie that was a live action, then people would like it and watch it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy because you have these Disney movies where you have fans. You have a rabid fan base for the animated movies. Like Aladdin, Lion King,
Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid.
Yeah, all of these things, you have a fan base. You already have a fan base. You have generations of fan bases, right? Because those are movies we grew up with. These are movies I'm showing my kids.
My parents enjoyed them.
Yeah, so you've got generations that love these animated movies. You have the fan base to actually make money off of these if you just make them well.
Right. Yeah, and they could. You know, you could do a live action. This is something that I'm not looking forward to when they do it. Live action version of Robin Hood with the animated version of Robin Hood.
Sure.
It's going to be trash.
It's
no matter what.
It's going to be CGI anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah, they're not going to have Roger Miller singing the songs, right? They're not going to have the traditional Robin Hood, Maid Marian fucking story with the evil prince and the snake that's the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, which is fun. Like, that's fun.
It's fun, and you don't have to change much. And the one that kind of like blew me away was like, we're doing a live action Lion King. How are you billing this as live action? It's all CGI.
There's no need for a live action Lion King.
Oh, even if you want to do like a grittier Lion King, just go watch Hamlet. It's the same fucking story.
More or less.
You want to do a live action Lion King, just film Hamlet and call it Hamlet and call it good.
Right.
You don't need, you're calling it a live action Lion King, it's all just CGI things. So what, the animation is better, but it's still animated. So what am I?
More realistic animation, I guess.
Yeah, but it's not live action.
No.
You're not training lions and hyenas.
You're not training a baboon to hold up a lion cub on a precipice.
And to sing, Anakshan Abashgan or whatever. And then, Simba's like,
Matata.
what does it mean? It means you're a baboon and I'm not. Asante-san, a squash banan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I don't know, man. But they haven't done it with Fifth Element. And I hope they don't remake it. And I hope they don't make a sequel because there's no need.
They won't. All the original actors are, now they're older,
retired,
obviously. They're retired or dead.
And Bruce Willis can't act anymore, unfortunately.
Right.
Which is sad. And he made a bunch of really shitty movies at the end of his career, which people were like, why is he making all these shitty movies? And then he came out with his diagnosis and he was doing it to, bank money.
Yeah, bank money. And
which makes sense. And that's fine.
He gave permission to AI him, which adding all those movies helps for sure.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of like it's a tough thing because he's such a beloved actor. He's been in, think of the quintessential movies he's been in, like Die Hard, Fifth Element, other things.
Sixth Sense,
right? I mean, he was like the star for a long time. But then you also have to balance like his private life with his public life. It's like, well, he's got the chops to do almost anything that he wants to do, and he's doing all these shit movies. So it's a little weird, at least for a while before they publicized the diagnosis and everything.
Yeah, and everybody was very understanding. He's a beloved actor in Hollywood. Definitely one of the last movie stars. I've
never seen any reference of him being in any way, shape, or form associated with a trip to Epstein Island. So one of those actors you can legitimately like.
Yeah, he's a pre-social media actor. What's Bruce Willis like off the screen? No idea. Don't care.
You don't need to know as long as they're not an asshole, right?
Yeah, doesn't need to know. He's like Jack Nicholson style. Like, you don't really need to know anything about me. Mm-hmm. And I always appreciated that public persona of Jack Nicholson where he brings like the hot young chicks. Yeah. That maybe he's banging, maybe not. It's impossible to know.
It's Jack.
It's all a show. Yeah. It's all a show. He's presenting himself as a movie star.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Right. I always appreciate it. It's like, he's bringing all these prostitutes to these events. And it's like, he's selling an image.
He's got the Jack Nicholson Prostitute Outreach nonprofit.
He's selling an image. Like, do you really know what he's like? No.
Yeah, no. Same as, like Dolly Parton.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's exactly the same thing. I love that interview. Like, what's your original hair color? Oh, I don't remember.
Yep. So she wears a wig and heavy makeup anytime she performs so she can go out in public and not be harassed. Nobody really knows what she looks like. I mean, you could figure it out, but I mean, I think her husband's done interviews and stuff, so if you knew what he looked like, you could likely find her in your life. But it's kind of like a weird Where's Waldo thing, and I'm not a crazy internet stalker of celebrities, so
I don't care. It's kind of like we talked about the Taylor Swift AI stuff that was going on. It's like I never saw any of that because I didn't really care to, but the cult of personality is real for sure.
I mean, if I meet a famous person, like that's cool and all, but I mean, I've met Katy Perry and Tom DeLonge and stuff, but I wasn't gawking over them or anything. I got to give Tom a hug, so that's cool.
That's cool.
I got a picture with him. Katy Perry didn't allow pictures.
Oh, there we go.
What do you do? But her line was way longer. We budged that line to meet her. Warped Tour, man. It was a different era.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I don't know if I've ever met like a famous person. I mean, I have, but not like Katy Perry famous for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they were there to meet people, right? They had the meet and greet line, so it wasn't like I was randomly at Applebee's or something and saw some famous person sitting there and went over to their table drooling and wetting my pants and asking for an autograph or something. It was just like, it's a meet and greet. They expect to meet me. I expect to meet them. Not that big a deal. Was it cool? Yeah, it was cool, but not really that different from me. He's still a person, or she's still a person.
Right, yeah.
They have a different lifestyle for sure and different reality, but by and large, like, why would I be intimidated by meeting somebody?
Right.
They have to take sustenance and breathe the air.
Right, and we've talked about this off air. In the modern world, if you are an American, which we both are, we live pretty okay lifestyles. One of the biggest differences between us and the celebrity isn't so much the life, it's I drive an F-150. They drive a McLaren. It's still a fucking car.
Yeah, or they
that's
don't
magical.
Or they don't even drive. They have somebody drive them.
They could have
in
somebody
the McLaren
drive them
or whatever.
Like we both live in houses that are warm in the winter and cool in the summer.
Yeah,
they obviously have a house that is significantly larger.
Yeah, more square footage and more people to clean it for them. Whereas we clean
I have
homes,
to clean it myself.
So,
or their grass is green and my grass doesn't have a lawn sprinkler system. So if the summer's hot, I just let it dry out and die.
Yeah,
because I don't care.
If it dies, it dies.
It dies. I actually enjoy it when my lawn dies because then I don't have to mow. I hate mowing. Famously.
Speaking of if he dies, Dolph Lundgren just beat cancer. So that's good.
That is good. Good for him and his family.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyway, that's pretty much The Fifth Element. Give it a watch. If you like the director, please, for the love of God, whatever God you pray to, Flying Spaghetti Monster or not, do not watch Valeria and the Thousand Planets or whatever. That was one of the few movies my wife and I literally walked out of the movie theater to.
I never watched it. Never even heard of it.
It's the same director, but the two people that were supposedly married and had chemistry had the opposite of chemistry.
Interesting.
And it was so boring, and we just looked at each other and we're like, I can't make the rest of this film, because it was a theater that didn't have alcohol, so there was no way to make the rest of it. That's one of those like shitty movie nights.
Yep.
Where it's like we're gonna get real drunk, and we're gonna make fun of this thing, but not in the theater. So
the only movie I ever walked out of was My Name is Sam with Sean Penn, where he played a handicapped person.
Oh, is that
I Am Sam or My Name is Sam, or he had like a daughter?
Sam? No, it was a Beatles-centric movie. Is it I Am Sam?
Possibly. Something of that nature. I can look it up.
Yeah, I think it's a Beatles-centric movie, whereas he liked the Beatles or something. So there's a lot of Beatles songs in the film.
Maybe.
I saw that one. I don't remember particularly one way or the other way. Of course, being a film student, I've watched a crap ton of movies that range from absolute terrible to, fantastic. So
I Am Sam is the name of the movie.
Yeah.
And he plays a handicapped man that has a child who is struggling in school and all that jazz. And I was like, this is fucking woke nonsense. This is, of course, what year did that come out?
It gotta be late 90s, early 2000s.
2001. I watched it in theater in 2001. Okay. I was like, this is nonsense. Like, this person should not be raising a child. This is a people with mental disabilities raising children type of thing, which was, the woke thing of the time. And it's like, no, if this guy is struggling and maybe he needs some help, I don't know. Like, we don't need to glorify this. Like,
yeah. I mean, I guess, like, it's been a long time because I think I only saw the film once. probably in college. I don't really remember. I know that emotionally it makes sense, right? Like it's a very emotional film.
Oh, very much so. Drama.
To drive upon that and win you over through the emotional appeal. I think that having your parents, your biological parents involved in your life is better than not having them involved in your life. In a lot of cases, I think statistics show that and studies have shown that.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't mean that it should be without help or without supervision in some cases. It depends.
It does. And of course, I was a teenager at the time, so
maybe
if I watched
have
it now,
a different view now.
Yeah, maybe if I watched it now, I wouldn't have walked out of the theater halfway.
There are certainly films that I've gone back to as an adult and watched where I get a different vibe from it. Mostly, we talked about this last season. Mostly Pinocchio, where Jiminy Cricket doesn't do jack shit,
right? And
then Pinocchio's to blame for everything, even though he was assigned like a guardian that didn't show up for the whole film.
Right? Yeah. He's a bad boy, but he didn't get any help either.
Yeah, he didn't get any help
on his first day of being alive.
Yeah, he didn't ask to be alive. I didn't ask for this. Definitely some films like that out there. But the point is that watching a movie like The Fifth Element today, for one, makes me really appreciate how well made it was. As ridiculous as some of the plot points are, and some of the characters and stuff like that, but it's all for a reason and all for a point, and it all fits in the world and the narrative that the movie is creating. And it makes me wish films were made with such care as they were back then, because nowadays it seems like they're making them to sell tickets and to maybe pump them out as fast as possible. I mean, looking at Marvel, there's, Marvel has their whole however many next years slated already, so what's coming out from Marvel. And they're just trying to get all this stuff out and keep going with their multiverse. So you lose something with that when you're relying on previous films to sell subsequent films.
Right. To me, watching it in theater was a breath of fresh air. It was a film created independently of anything else, and it was not created for content. It wasn't there just to get eyeballs on it. It was intended to be something that people enjoyed and watched independently of anything else.
Yeah, it was its own story.
Yes, and it's a classic. My parents like it.
Yeah, it was not a remake of the 1952 Fifth Element.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't an extension of.
It wasn't the live action version of the animated 1992 film Fifth Element.
Right, and it's got visual elements that are pleasing. That politically probably wouldn't go anymore, potentially.
Maybe not.
There's too many attractive people in it. Yeah, too many attractive people in it.
The score was great. Music and everything was good.
Oh, the music was great. It even had a musical number in it.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yes.
It had a diverse cast before diversity was a buzzword.
Yeah, it had a cast for a reason.
Yeah, it was based 500 or 200 years in the future, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, of course, 200 years in the future, there's going to be every race of person plus all these weird aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, you're going to have a black president with a fake eye.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah,
it's not relevant to...
It's not President Camacho, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's not relevant to being president to have a fake eye, right? Like,
yeah.
And you have these military leaders that are basically the military leaders we have today.
Yeah, and have had in the past.
The same trope, if you will.
Yeah, pretty much. Military leaders who love the smell of napalm in the morning, yada, yada.
Yeah, exactly. Let's blow it up. We probably should have more of that.
It can't fight us if we're dead.
Yeah, they can't. Which, maybe there should be more of that. I know my old man, being Vietnam era, it's like, they should have just let loose and, burn down Vietnam. Which possibly so. I don't
Possibly so. I wasn't there. I wasn't alive then.
I wasn't alive then.
I know World War II era was my grandfather, and he was very thankful they dropped the bombs.
Oh, for sure.
Because he was stationed off coast, so he was going to have to go.
Hindsight's 2020. You can make excuses today, but when the projection is you're going to lose 1 million soldiers, or you could just kill 500,000 of the enemy or 250,000 of the enemy. That's a no-brainer. Obvious. That's an obvious choice.
Yeah, at some point it does, unfortunately, even though every life is sacred and every life has value, at the end of the day, in a conflict like that, it does come down to numbers at the end of the day.
Oh, for sure. It's like the bombing of Dresden. Like, we could kill 100,000 civilians, or we could kill 50,000 of our own troops. Well, in a war, your troops are worth a hell of a lot more than the enemy civilians.
Yeah.
So that's how the game works.
Not saying war is right, but just...
No, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's the way it is.
That's how things shake out. You know?
It's a fact. It's an ugly fact, but it is still a fact all the same.
Yep. One gladiator in the ring of Commodus is worth less than his sister is to him in his bed. Or something.
Something of that nature.
Maybe I missed the point of the movie. I don't know.
I have to say, Nate, we had 2 good cigars in a row. This is
is
going to be the theme
atypical
of season
atypical.
4. This is not going to be the
Hey,
theme.
we got to be happy with the first couple episodes, or else nobody's going to listen to the rest of the season.
We had a string of anti-bangers.
Yeah, man, those Rico Baratos or whatever, and then we did the Baccaros too, and those were terrible.
Well, you have to have some losers for there to be winners.
That's true, and you have to have something to compare because we talk about price points and everything, and so the A10, is that within our price range, or is that a little outside of it?
That's outside of it. It's a $12 cigar.
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
But it's the premiere, the season episode 1 of season 4. So
yeah.
We generally splurge the first and last episodes of the season.
Knowingly, it's like, this is going to be special.
We want to start and end on high notes, and everything else in the middle is up to the cigar gods. So
right, yeah. Hopefully, we get some winners in there.
Yeah,
I know that when we start doing the flavored cigars, those skinny, long flavored ones, they stink.
Okay.
They stink terribly.
They're in a separate humidor. I haven't opened since you gave them to me. So
yeah, they're in their own jar. Humidor for me, but extra cedar in there because they are just obnoxious.
Well, hopefully they taste fine. I don't know.
They're going to be sweet, I'm sure. Hopefully, not sour.
Hopefully.
Yeah. They're long and skinny.
It's a whole jar full of blood red moons. Hopefully not.
Oh my God, I'd be so disappointed. The price was right though, so I think those were like $1 a stick or something.
That's what we do. We smoke so you can spend your dollars wisely.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And I know flavored cigars are a big part of the industry that we don't usually explore. And
we don't usually explore, but I've gotten more people interested in cigar smoking with the Moon Trance and the Sweets.
Oh yeah, those are epic.
Those are really good like intro sticks, so
yep.
Maybe, even if we find just one winner out of that batch of flavored ones, then I think that's a win because, it's a good way to get other people who want to try but are not ready for something like what we're smoking now.
Yeah, and this is
a fuller-bodied cigar.
A full-bodied heavy cigar with fairly high nicotine. My mouth is tingling. Mm-hmm. Like it has a pretty high nicotine content.
Yes. The A10 did as well.
Mm-hmm.
So feeling pretty good over at the Nice Ashes Studios.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
Nice Ashes North Studio.
Yes. Where the biggest problem is, do we or do we not buy chainsaws?
That is an issue.
So, yeah, Fifth Element, definitely a go. I'm guessing that every listener's already seen it.
Hopefully.
If you haven't seen it for a while, watch it again.
Rewatch it. It's worth a rewatch. Especially if if you remember enough about it, you can pick up on other things, other little, Easter eggs they put in there and clues and stuff. So,
it's very
There's
humorous.
A whole kind of like slapstick comedy almost. When you have the military crew and the priest and his assistant all in Bruce Willis's little apartment room, and he's trying to hide them in the showers and the things, and they run through the cycles, and everything does its automatic thing, and everybody comes out like wet or frozen or wrapped in plastic or whatever it is.
Yep.
So you've got you got all of the humor tropes in there.
The priest hides on the airplane and he's hidden up in
in the wheel well.
Yeah, the wheel well and the wires and.
Yeah,
it's all good times. They have the stoners out on the road crew trying to burn off all the alien
parasites things or whatever. It's like, we got a sensor off. We got more parasites. We just cleared those off. It's the priest triggering the sensors. So definitely give it a rewatch. If you like that one, I really like Leon the Professional. Get the international cut or whatever, or the extended. It's by a few scenes. It's not drastic, but that's what's on the Blu-ray. So
a classic as well.
Yeah,
definitely worth a watch.
Yeah,
you could argue
Natalie Portman's first film. I think.
I think so. You think you told me that?
Yeah,
but you could argue that Leon the Professional is better than The Fifth Element. Totally different style of film.
Different style of film. I think they're both really good. Great. I like Leon because I gravitate to those stories like The Shootist.
Right.
Where it's somebody who was really good and is maybe not at the top of their game or is a little bit older and has to take care of somebody younger or, something like that where it's like they've done their things and they've done things, but now there's a softer side to them.
Yeah, they're
kind of thing.
They are not at the peak of their performance. They're on the decline, but they have the knowledge and experience to make them still competitive amongst the newer generation.
And they're still the best, but in Leon, he has rules that he follows and doesn't let anyone deviate from. And there's arguments about that in the film and stuff. But
it's It's to bring up the shootist is one of the greatest films, one of the greatest Western films. Made at the end of the Western craze. It's kind of like a double closeout to John Wayne's career and to the Western genre.
Because he knew he was dying of cancer. And his character in there has cancer. And it's the second pairing of John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart. Do you remember the first pairing?
No, I'm sure I've seen it, but...
The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Oh, okay.
A very fantastic film, Western, but also kind of like a really gritty noir whodunit.
Sure.
Because John Wayne plays like a gritty, the gritty cowboy character. Jimmy Stewart plays, I don't know, like a in-town business person.
Yeah, schoolboy.
Who claims to have... but whatever. Anyway, if you haven't seen Liberty Valance, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, or The Shootist, and you enjoy kind of Westerns that are deeper than let's go kill some Injuns.
Yeah.
Their terms, not mine. Right. But of the era, those are great. I think my favorite John Wayne film still, though, is The Searchers.
The Searchers, he had a lot of good films. The Searchers
he had a lot of good films.
Great. What the hell was it?
Island in the Sky.
Island in the Sky.
I haven't seen that one yet, but I am going to watch it.
I love Island in the Sky. I think that its depictions of hallucinating in a winter environment.
And that's a war film, not a cowboy.
That is a war film. Yeah, a war film. Were extremely good. Probably a little too realistic for
the era
that it was made in because of censorship associated with the war effort. And his lighter films are good too. Like I like Big Jake. I like McClintock.
Yeah,
he was in how many ever
Sons
films.
of Katie Elder, True Grit,
Sons of Katie Elder,
Rooster Cogburn.
Oh, he was in a number of.
He was in a lot of films.
Extremely good movies.
I still don't like Donovan's Reef.
I like Donovan's Reef. I think it's great.
I know that's the only John Wayne disagreement we have.
Yeah. And it was great. And I prepped Sarah up. I'm like, the chick that is the love interest is way too young for John Wayne.
Yeah,
and he self-admitted it.
Yes,
at the time.
Yes.
Like he was like, this is a little gross, which is big for a major movie star.
Yeah, even today, looking at you, Leo.
Yeah,
and but for of the era where it was like macho men were macho men. Macho men loved women of all ages and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And
it's like
that's fairly out of character for that time frame.
Yeah, it was very self-conscious of the major movie star to be like, a little bit too far.
Not
here.
A fan of this.
Yeah. Him and Cary Grant shared that where they hit a certain age and they're like, we're not doing love stories anymore.
Yeah,
I'm too old. I'm too old to do love stories. Even though crowds loved it, Yeah,
crowds loved it.
Yeah, it would have been better if John Wayne was not in Donovan's Reef, if John Wayne was not pursuing a woman who was in her early 20s.
Yeah, they could have cast just a different actress.
Yeah, she could have been in her 30s, and it would have been appropriate.
Would have been better.
Yeah. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Fifth Element.
Fifth Element. But like good films spill over to other good films. So, we get a little rambly sometimes. So, to be expected.
It's to be expected. Right.
Yeah. Well, Mike put his cigar out, and I'm just about done.
Yes.
This is good all the way through, I think.
It was a great cigar.
Nothing bad.
I think we have another 5. I can't go above a 5. But this is in our price point.
This is in our price point. This is in our taste profile. I'm just going to do a 5.25. And if you're going to do a 5, that's fine. Because it'll pull it up just a little bit because it is slightly better than the A10, the Rocky Patel A10.
I don't want to shit on the A10 because
I'm not trying to shit on the A10.
More complex and it's higher price point. And that plays a role in how I'm trying to make these make sense in my head,
Yeah. But I feel like this is as good, if not slightly better, for way less.
I agree.
So I agree. I just that's why I did if you're doing a 5, I'm going to do a 0.25. So the average is just slightly up, so that we can look back and say, okay, it was.
I can give a stronger recommendation for this because it's a lower price point.
Yeah,
and it is way more in the wheelhouse of what
we
like
enjoy anyway.
Yeah. It's like it's an easy win, right?
Very
it's
much
like,
so.
Oh, we have Guinness flavored Guinness, like. Probably gonna like it.
We like Guinness flavored Guinness.
Oh, you mean like it's gonna be like 60 degrees? Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Get out of here, you adding British
so and
whatever. Yeah. I don't even know what the
knave or some archaic curse word that is not offensive.
Yes, not offensive nowadays, but I would have got you shot.
Yeah,
or at least a duel, So
talk about Aaron Burr this episode.
Yeah. We're gonna hope the pistols misfire so we can beat them to death with a cane.
That's right. A la Andrew Jackson, who's on the no-no list.
Yeah. Yep.
So I can't wait for that to come up again. total aside, the $20 bill is going to get redone. Has to.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the arguments.
Yeah.
Last time it was going to be Harriet Tubman, I thought.
Yeah, that's
and
what
it never
remember
happened.
hearing, yeah.
But I love it. I hope they do Harriet Tubman. Why not?
Well, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Betsy Ross.
Honestly, Benjamin Franklin shouldn't be on a bill.
Why? He's the founding father. He's
but he wasn't ever president.
He was never president.
You've got
either was Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah,
he was the first head of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah,
so they're founding fathers.
That's his prerogative, is founding the Federal Reserve. But I'm the first professor. I gave myself an assignment, and I gave myself an A+. Yeah.
None of the modern presidents will be on bills, most likely.
Hopefully not.
They're a little controversial. None of them are.
Even the older ones are controversial if you learn enough about them.
That's true. That's very true.
But there are, it's weird because in America, we don't have the same kind of, hopefully, the mega stuff aside, idolation of our presidents that, say, England might have of their king and queens.
It's not official
things.
state
It's
policy
not,
to be like, oh, these guys are great.
Yeah, so you could definitely put other notable Americans on there. I don't know why, Neil Armstrong isn't on a bill.
Right.
Or
Sojourner Truth.
General Patton could be on a bill.
Absolutely. Eisenhower.
Sure.
Eisenhower's fairly non-controversial.
Yeah, you could put these other people that have done great contributions to America as American citizens and put them on a bill instead of feeding the adulation of presidents.
Yeah.
Who are really there for 4 to 8 years. So
right, yeah. It makes sense to do new bill series from the perspective of preventing
they put Sacagawea on a $1 coin.
Right.
You could do that. You could, she didn't do anything really, but
she's part of the American story.
If you're history in that era, she didn't do anything. But you could put, literally anybody on there as an American.
Yeah, ancient.
You could put
ancient historical figures.
Yeah, you could put some indigenous, Native Americans.
You could put Sitting Bull. For sure.
Yeah,
Geronimo.
You could put Crazy Horse on there, and maybe they'd finish that before that monument they're building out there.
Crazy Horse would be if they put some government money behind the Crazy Horse monument. At the conclusion of that, they could put Crazy Horse on a bill or on a coin.
Yeah, you could put Rosa Parks on one.
Martin
Luther King.
Martin Luther King. I can't believe Martin Luther King isn't already on money.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously he's got a national monument in Washington.
Well, and he's a well-loved American character. Even
if you say something bad about Martin Luther King, you're probably a shitbag.
You're probably a racist. I don't know how to tell you.
Yeah, that's like a universally beloved American character.
Icon.
Yeah.
So
him as a man, maybe not the best person 100% of the time, like any other human.
Everybody's a product of their time and product of their own vices and what have you. So
you have proclivities as a human that aren't necessarily part of your public life.
Yeah, but probably better than any president. I don't know.
Oh, better than any modern president
for sure.
So.
But anyway, Fifth Element, love it. Go watch it again.
Highly recommend. Watch it on the big screen. Take an edible.
Yep. If it's legal in your jurisdiction. South Dakota
and North Dakota, scum.
Yep. Otherwise, the Partagas Cifuente
Maduro Toro.
Very good.
Very good. Highly
good.
recommend.
Recommend from us here. And thanks for listening.
Be safe. Have fun.